starting, right? Okay. So, hello once again. Welcome to the third International Forum for ELT Professionals. It's a second day today. And let me just take a couple of minutes outlining the agenda for today. It's quite a short day today. Basically here we are working till 1 p.m. Then the break, and later on till 3 p.m. you are invited to the workshops. Please don't forget that I can see that lots of you are taking photos. Don't forget about the hashtag, because we are still doing the competition, and your selfie or your photo with the hashtag is a chance to get the prizes from the Internal Education and Pearson. So ahead there is a plenary, but I would first love to just briefly present those who are meeting you here, either here on the stage or in the workshops. So I will start and will introduce you once again later, but first, this is Sean Harty, the founder and the owner and the managing director of the Internal Education, and actually the inventor of the whole thing going on here today and yesterday, right? Now, yesterday you met our colleague from Pearson Central Europe. Agnieszka, where are you? Yes, well, here is Agnieszka Wybyszymanska, our representative from Pearson, and Marina Maligina, the representative of Pearson in Ukraine. Also, today, later on, you will meet Dmitro Mazin, Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, and the president of ITEFL Ukraine, Olga Pavlenka. We are going to have a series of incredibly interesting workshops, and here Olga Birshaska from Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, one of the workshops. I think I can spot somewhere there Kate, who is doing the listening workshop later on. Yes, well, and probably Katie Farcher, where are you? Well, somewhere around, so you have seen her today. Well, so please welcome to the workshops and welcome to the session. And of course, here we are looking forward to the talk from our guest speaker, Rob Dean. Well, yesterday we were actually devastated by the talk on 21st Century Classroom, but now I will hand it over to Sean. You're welcome.
Hi, how are you? Okay. I'm originally from London, and I think I brought the weather with me, haven't I? It's a grotty, nasty day today, foggy outside, so thank you for coming. As Sveta said before, my name is Sean Harty, and I'm the founder and managing director of the Internal Education. I also run a chain of ELT and Montessori schools throughout Ukraine, here in Kiev, Lviv, Odessa, and in the past in Donetsk. So I'm an educator and a businessman. Now, that's not a dichotomy, that can happen, okay? So I understand about education, I understand about finance as well. In my job at the moment, I'm obliged to travel around the country and visit departments of universities and universities such as those that you work in. So I have a great deal of experience of meeting people, meeting professors and lecturers and heads of departments. So what I want to do today is just a little bit, for 5 or 10 minutes, just to share with you some of my opinions and my reflections on this word and to talk about aspects of. So to get the ball rolling, everybody's arms are working, yeah? Come on, yeah? Yes, good, arms are working, great. So, when you see this word, if your feelings are perhaps more positive than negative, put your hand up in the air. Ooh, lots of optimists here, yeah? So lots of people who look at the glass and see that it's half full. Okay, my next question, when you look at this word, put your hand up if you have mixed feelings. Yes, no, quite a few mixed feelings. Yeah, I suppose people who have mixed feelings have either been the subject of reforms or have actually tried to enact reforms? And lastly, put your hands up and let's be honest, when you see this word, you have more negative feelings than positive feelings. One brave lady here, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sveta. Yeah, I mean, reform, the word reform, it's rather dramatic. It's emotive, isn't it? Yeah? There sometimes is the connotation that it's all gone wrong and we have to do something about it. And I don't think that's always the case. Another way of looking about reform really is just, it's planning for the future, intelligently, is it? Yeah? Or another way that you can look at reform, do you remember this chap? It seems like a long, long time ago, doesn't it? Sanity in the White House, yes, our friend Obama. And this is the famous poster that came out when he was campaigning, and the slogan was, yes we can. Yes we can do what? Change. So I'm of the opinion that a lot of people's ideas and reflections on reform are very similar to how they view change. Change is another politer way of saying reform, don't you think so? To a certain degree? Now the one thing about, there's a nice saying, I think it's an American saying, that you can be sure of 2 things in life. 2 things in life you can be certain of. Number 1, death, and number 2, taxes. Have you heard that one before? No? It's not me, okay. I think you can add to that list, that very short list, the word change. Change is inevitable. Resistance is futile. So when sometimes your students or your pupils or your professors and peers say, what are these reforms all about? We can just say sometimes, well, we're making some changes. It's a nice euphemistic term. You understand, yeah? Now, basically, I'll go back, I've been involved over the last 22 years in a lot of reforms. I've had to actually look at a lot of documents or legislation that changes certain aspects of how we work. Whether it's the higher education, whether it's applying for a GRIF, for basically primary or secondary books to be used in the state sector, whether it's tax reform, or whether it's just basically new regulations in how you hire and legalize foreigners. So I have a lot of experience at looking at documents. And basically I have quite a lot of experience also at actually looking at why reforms work or don't work. Because there are essentially 2 types of reform. Ones that work and ones that don't work. And often what happens is the reasons why reforms don't work is that the reformers are kind of looking at the whole process the wrong way. Personally, what I would do if I want to reform something, whether it's basically the higher education sector of Ukraine, or even if it's just the way that my teachers actually fill out their registers, if I want to reform something, I look back at what were the indicators, what were the social contexts of society or of business when I originally created this system. So if we were going to look back at the higher education system here in Ukraine, you want to go back a few years and think to yourself, what were the contexts? What was the prevalent contexts of society at that time? Why do we have the higher education system that we have now? And when we go back, we look at historical and political. So the Soviet Union, a closed society, a society where the state is in control, top down. Politicians not elected by universal suffrage, but politicians appointed by groups of elderly men in a room somewhere in the Kremlin, okay? So that's the system we're using now. That was created at the time when we had these people in charge. Then we look at social economic. Does anybody know where this place is? In tourist? Where is it? It's in Kiev, yes. And this would be, it might be Sum as well, in Kiev, the gastronomes. Yeah, European postage, yeah. So a great deal of change as well has happened since this time. In the old days, of course, all shopping or activities to do with production of food were controlled by the state. And of course, tourism, well, tourism was internal. And if you were lucky, you might get a trip down to Crimea in the summertime. And then we look at educational. Any memories there? And of course, education here in the Soviet Union was designed for one purpose only, designed to educate people to service the state. It wasn't competitive, it wasn't to do with the private sector, it was basically to produce scientists or ideologists, basically to work in the state. So all of these factors, have they changed? So surely if the factors and the context of why we set up the old system have changed, then surely the system itself should change, shouldn't it? So, anybody know who that chap is? Somebody? Yeah, Donald Tusk. I'm a fan of Donald Tusk because when he became the European president of the European Council, his German was very good because he has German heritage, but his English was about A2, B1. But if you listen to him now, Agnieszka, C2? He had to re-educate himself there. Donald Tusk. And of course I put Donald there because he's originally from Poland, well, he's Polish. And of course a lot of the country is looking towards the West, integration into the European Union. Wow, do you know what this is? This is Ukraine International Airlines map. So this is where you can move now. So international travel has happened, people are moving abroad, they're traveling abroad, they're swapping ideas, they're seeing how other cultures exist. And this, anybody? It's the escalator that gives you vertigo in Krishatik, in Sun, yes. So, yeah. So now the private sector is well and truly here for shopping. Shopping is no longer an ordeal. It's not an experience. When I first came to Ukraine in 1992, I was still going to the gastronome and doing that. And then, remember? And waiting for how long? For a while, yes, yeah, to get your produce, you know? And of course, who are these? Students and you lot, come on. Everybody's got their phones, so, you know, social mobility, the social world now, and then lastly, oh, sorry, I've gone too far. So basically, when you look back, you can see that the context of how society has changed completely. So there has to be some sort of change to the higher education at the same time. So there's change. Now, if you look at this chap, anybody know who he is? Yes, it's Charles Darwin. This is a caricature. Lampooning, that's a good word, lampooning Charles Darwin. Now, what was Charles Darwin famous for? Well, it wasn't called a theory of evolution at that point. Charles Darwin basically published a book called, what? The Origin of the Species in 1859. And it was about natural selection. So it evolved later on into evolution, but at the time, Charles Darwin was a botanist and a naturalist, and he was talking about evolution, yeah, natural selection. And of course, as you can see, his theories at the time weren't very well, what? Received. And in fact, even now, there are some states in some parts of America where the theory of evolution is still considered an alternative theory. Okay? Fake science, even. So basically, what I think has happened here, for instance, is that it's not so much that everything's wrong, it's more so that the natural evolutionary process that has taken part in other countries has been stymied here, has been delayed. We're doing reforms not because everything's wrong, it's because for some reason we haven't joined the cycle. We're not where we should be. And there's reasons for that, of course, isn't there? You know, 1991, 92, 93, I was living here at the time, very difficult. People weren't focusing on higher education, they were focusing on what? Surviving, how to get by. And I suppose some of the reasons why Ukraine hasn't or isn't in the correct place on the evolutionary cycle for higher education is down to previous poor governance and a lack of investment. But I think that's going to change. Evolutionary, not revolutionary. Aha! I think some of you recognise this, yes? Now, remember I was telling you before that I have a great deal of experience looking at documents. This is what usually happens when I see a new document produced here in Ukraine that has something to do with new laws, new regulations, or reform. What I do is this. I read it once. I read it a second time. And then often, I read it a third time. Because the truth is, and you all know this, that often following new legislation or reforms is a very, very difficult matter. The rules are open to interpretation, thank you. The rules are open to interpretation. They've always been open to interpretation. There seems to be some design that you do not want the rules to be too explicit. You'd rather the rules are implicit. So often you see a document, it's about reform, you read it, you get the idea what it's about, but it doesn't tell you how you have to do it. Or it doesn't tell you who you have to work with. And it doesn't give you a timeline. These recommendations are very different. They are very explicit. They set out basically what they really want us to achieve in higher education. There are some very clear targets, and I like to look at one or two of them at the moment. Like this one over here. Aha! Have you seen this? Have a read. So basically the documents, the proposals for reform, really place in the centre of the reform these three planks. ESP, English for Special Purposes, EMI, that's the English as a medium of instruction for Ukrainian students in non-English subjects, and the one that I really like, EMIF, which is English as a medium of instruction for foreigners. So basically, these three central tenets of the reform are so important because this document, I believe, is almost like a chemical reaction. It's a catalyst. It's a catalyst to jumpstart our higher education so it joins the correct portion of the, what shall I say, of the evolutionary cycle. This is what this document does. If you look at EMI for F, you might also understand that this will soon, or it will become, a very important part of the reform of how universities are funded. That's one of the sort of secret notes in this reform here. If you don't have foreign students coming to Ukraine in great numbers and paying for instruction, then you won't receive the monies that will go into your universities in the future. So one of the refreshing things that I've seen in this document is that it is very explicit. It's not open to interpretation. It's about basically not just reform, it's about evolution. It's about making changes to what we do because the context has changed in the past. It's about getting back to where we should be. Talking about basically having the same standards, the same good practice that you can find in other countries. Anybody recognize that? KPI, yeah? How many English language teachers do we have here from technical universities? Hands up, technically, oh, quite a few. Technically, so your English language teachers and or scientists? Any scientists? Come on, don't be shy. From the geology department, you're an ex-scientist, okay? All right, I want some help from you, maybe. Does anybody recognise what that is? Any engineers out there? No? All English language teachers. It's called the RD-180, and it's a Soviet-designed engine for rockets, for space. Ooh, there's an anomaly here. The Americans bought 35 of these rockets in 1996. Why? Anybody? No? We'll go back in, sorry. The thing is this, basically. In 1957, the Americans woke up and they heard this beep, 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 beep. What was that? Sputnik. And then a few years later, we had Yuri Gagarin saying, Boyokuli. Remember? And what happened was that the Americans were absolutely astonished, amazed, that the citizens of the Soviet Union had been able to produce technology that was far in excess of what they'd been able to do. And they were not only astonished, they were frightened. And thus began the start of the real Cold War, and the arms race, and the space race. And it's commonly perceived that the Americans won the space race. JFK said we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And that happened in 1969. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, they were put on the moon. So the Americans won the space race. But the matter of fact is that in the 30 years of the space race, from 1959 all the way to 1986, basically, the Americans were not able to produce, to design, to produce an effective rocket booster as this. This is the most efficient, most reliable, and most practical rocket ever produced here in the space program. The Americans weren't even able to actually, even when they had the plans and the blueprints to manufacture this, because it was only the Soviets that had actually the know-how and the expertise of working with titanium. So the interesting thing, guys, is this. The scientists and the intellectuals and the engineers and the professors who put together this kind of work, this kind of engineering, who are they? They're you. They're your fathers, your husbands, your grandfathers, your uncles. When we talk about reform, we must be very careful about not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It doesn't mean everything is bad. It means things need to catch up. Because basically, Ukraine has one of the world's greatest scientific heritages. The genius, the man who's responsible for the modern world, because guys, without satellites, the phones wouldn't work. We'd all go wrong. The person that invented the space program is this chap. Anybody? Sergei? Where was he born? Zhytomyr. Where did he go to school? Odessa. Okay? He's a Ukrainian subject, okay? From Ukraine, one of yours. So what's quite interesting at the moment is that it's kind of fashionable to look at liberal or humanitarian departments of universities here in Ukraine. But if I was in charge, I'd be starting with the technical universities, because the foundation is there for rediscovery, of what you were good at in the past. And at the moment, as you know, and some of you told me again, when you are a first-year student in the technical university here, and maybe your level of English is A1, A2, perhaps B1, you've got 1 hour a week of English. In your second year, you've got 1 hour a week of English. In your third and fourth year, no English. And of course, that's crazy. But of course, if these reforms that certain people are trying to propose come through, that should change, shouldn't it? You can't have English as a medium for instruction for foreign students if you're not teaching mechanical engineering in what language? English. I have to say, guys, if you think you're going to have thousands of students coming to Ukraine to study law and marketing, it's not going to happen. You have more chance of thousands of students coming here to study mechanical engineering, technology, sciences. So for me and for Pearson's, this is a very important sector of our work here. Not just helping the English departments get better in using modern materials and modern techniques, but also talking to technical universities. So when you hear the word reform, it's not all doom or gloom and that everything's wrong. It means that for some reasons or another, the natural evolutionary process has been stymied or stopped or delayed. The new laws, hopefully, will act as a catalyst and get things going again. But there's a lot to be hopeful for here. You have some fantastic brains and some very, very good engineers and some very, very good teachers here. So, like 1959, when the Americans woke up and were kicked out of the complacency by the Soviet Union, we can catch up again here. There is a chance for us here in Ukraine to get going again. We can all poyekali. You understand? So that's my little chat about reform. Reform is about change, and change is inevitable. Sic transit gloria mundi, all things shall pass. So don't be afraid of it. Try to be more positive about it, but it's a natural thing. It's not unnatural to change. It's not unnatural to reform. It's going to happen, guys. But let's do it intelligently. Let's do it smartly. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Thanks a lot. Internal now is an educational company, is in great cooperation with all sorts of bodies and organizations. Yesterday on the stage we had the pleasure to listen to the representative of the Ministry of Education of the British Council. Today I'm very pleased to welcome onto the stage the President of IATEFL Ukraine, Olga Pavlenko. Okay, can I change the slide somehow? Okay, no, sorry, that's me. Okay, well, Olga, you're welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Svetlana. Thank you, Internal and Pearson, for inviting us to this event. And we're delighted to be here and to feel so much support from you. And today I'm going to talk. My name is Olga Pavlenka. I'm the president of IATEFL Ukraine, newly elected this year. And today I'm going to shortly talk about what IATEFL Ukraine is, what are the benefits of joining our organization, and talk a little bit about our events in April. Sean was talking a lot about reforms, and one of the parts of the higher education reforms is revising the policy of concerning professional organizations. All of Ukrainian university teachers have already noticed that one of the criteria in accreditation documents or just teaching excellence documents or university ratings is becoming a member of professional organization. And from this year on, IATEFL Ukraine is going to be revising its policy on memberships. We are just waiting for the answer from IATEFL Global. In terms of creating our membership to follow Ukrainian standards, so having the numbers and maintaining everything that can help our university teachers to prove documentally, unfortunately, that we're Ukrainian organization that has the value for our teachers of English language. What is more, we're changing our policies a bit in terms of the participation of our students who are mastering pedagogy and applied linguistics, and we're inviting them to become the part of a professional society from the early master's program and even bachelor's program, and we're revising the institutional membership for students. This year at our annual conference we're going to be hopefully running it slot for our younger generation of future teachers who will be sharing their experience and perceptions of how they feel themselves in their specialisms and what experience changes we can share with the generation of more experienced teachers. Basically, ITEFL Ukraine is focused to expand its presence in the categories of EMI practitioners, EFL teachers are already there, as well as our partner cooperation and you as our potential members. Many of you, I see that are already members of ITEFL Ukraine and other Ukrainian professional organizations, but I left here in this slide the cell for you, because you are our drivers of ideas, projects, and we are ready to come to your universities or institutions to build new projects and to run communities of practice. I will tell you more a bit about ITEFL Global, which if you move to associates sections, you will find Ukraine there and ITEFL Ukraine as an official associate of ITEFL Global. What this means to us Ukrainian teachers, that we can get lots of discounts to events run by ITEFL Global, including the discounts to a membership of ITEFL Global. Unfortunately, we don't have much of them, but due to the fact that the number of our members is growing, we can ask ITEFL Global to provide us with more discounts on membership, and that's why we will hope that our members will get more value from this cooperation. ITEFL Ukraine has got more than 500 active members and partners, which are also giving us a lot of opportunities for sharing our knowledge, networking, and providing grant opportunities. Basically, ITEFL Ukraine runs lots of teacher professional development workshop, and normally we run 2 professional development schools in winter and summer. Many of you have already attended them, and this winter we hope to cover school sector in Odessa and to have both context, higher education and school context in summer this year. And our annual ITEFL conference is run in April, prior to ITEFL Global Conference in UK. Basically, ITEFL Ukraine aims to build a strong Ukrainian community of ELT teachers, and what's more, we are adding to this category English as a medium of instruction teachers and students in pedagogy and linguistics. And this year we were lucky to win the Hornby Trust Scheme, a small grant for developing regional learning communities. Basically, we chose 3 cities in Dnipro, Чернівці and Uman. The hosting universities were Dniprovska Polytechnica, Igor Futikovich Чернівці National University, and Uman Pedagogical Universities. And the grant covered the grant covered the training for facilitators of regional learning communities, who will be later on developing the communities in terms of building communities of practice through English as a medium of instruction. And the timeline of the project presents our action plan for this year. We already run a session for trainers for these learning communities. We've got now 9 facilitators in 3 cities, and we're awaiting our official opening of these three regional learning communities in Dnipro, Uman and Chernivtsi this November. We will be informing you about the events through our Facebook page, and we'll be sending emails to our members. Later on in December, January and February, these universities will be running events. These are not just English learning events, these are events aimed at developing and joining the forces of all people who want to learn English, who want to interact in English, and it's just not necessarily the English language course. It's going to be parents and children learning together cooking in English, or EMI teacher is going to be running teaching excellence sessions for their colleagues, and will be interacting with their students. So the cities have already planned 3 events, which will be aiming at different audiences. And if you would like to join this on voluntary basis, you are more than welcome to contact me during the break, and we can discuss your regional learning community and to think of an action plan and what we can do together to bring the value for your teachers or for your community. So the results of this project will be presented at our annual conference in April. So if you are not the member of ITAFL Ukraine, you're missing the following opportunities and benefits, which namely include the discounts from our partners and scholarship opportunities, apart from global aims like joining the community networking and building the capacity of your regions. If you would like to join us, go to our site. There is a membership area section. The membership is very cheap. You may also claim for an institutional membership or a student membership. If you would like to know more about our events, visit the section for conferences, and you'll see there the reports on our previous events, which was kindly hosted, the last one was kindly hosted by this university, and we are really hope that this year we're gonna run the conference also in this facility. And we are going to have our annual conference in April. The dates are the 3rd and the 4th of April, so you're more than welcome to join this event as a member or just as a visitor or a presenter. In a couple of days we're going to be launching the call for speakers or just attendees, so I believe that all of you will find something there. This brings me to the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to contact ITAFL Ukraine through our sites, social media. Use the following hashtag to know more about our events. Log to our Facebook page and subscribe, or just drop us a line to me as a president or anyone from our committee. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Olga. And I've just got the message from my colleagues from the registration. I asked them to give me the number of higher education institutions and the teachers from higher eds that we gathered today and yesterday. And the figure was 106 different higher education institutions. Representatives were present and are present today. It's absolutely fantastic. And now I am happy to welcome on the stage Dmitro Mazin, who is the head of the English language department at National University of Kyiv Mohyla Academy.
Good morning, everyone. It is still morning a little bit. So today we will speak about some quality factors, I think the essential quality factors for teaching and learning English. I would like to say that I represent the university which is very old and very young at the same time. It was founded back in 1615, so we celebrated 400th anniversary not long ago. At the same time, it was renovated in 1991, and so we have new modern history as well. But what is common between these two parts of our institution? I think that today we see it as a combination of the traditions, long-standing traditions, and innovations. Traditions and innovations, which combine together. And both in all the times and today, one of the features of our university was special attention given to learning and teaching languages. And today, this is also to teaching English language, although other foreign languages are also present here. Before we continue, I would like to clarify why should we learn languages in general? There are different answers, of course, we can give, and one of them is that because learning languages is the only thing worth knowing even poor. That is a funny quote I found from a Hungarian translator and in polyglot. But of course today we are going to talk about learning and teaching languages at a high quality level. And I would like to outline my brief presentation these major factors. I represent the English language department of our university, but I'm going to speak not only on behalf of the department, but also trying to analyze different factors at the university that contribute to learning languages. As for today, talking about the facts and what English is at the KNUTE Academy, we really can say that according to ongoing assessments and interviews, our alumni have traditionally a high level of English skills. Of course, we are not the only university who teach English, but among the particular spheres where English is used, and of course in universities as well, we have academic courses where English is taught, like our department provides. We have academic materials that are requested by other departments for other subjects as well. Above that, we have English as the second working language at our university, which is stated in our charter. From the very beginning, we have Ukrainian and English. We have many events which are taking place and which are communicated in English with special guests and interesting people. And our international academic life, student exchanges, and so on. Altogether, this builds part of the image. Yes, I can say for sure that English is part of the image of our university. I'm stressing on that not just to boast about, but to put it clearly. If we want our students and university to be building strong English skills, we have to integrate foreign language as other important subjects as part of its image, as part of its profile. But what are the factors? Here I will try to analyze four of them, that is four groups of factors that contribute to building the quality of learning and teaching foreign languages. At university level, university policies, department environment, international level, and resources. Talking about the university level, I'm also a member of the Methodology Commission at our university and being part of different processes, discussions around. I can say that English is, at our university, as it was mentioned before, a working tool. So it's not like something additional like useful skill. It's a working tool. Not always it is used that perfectly or mastered by every member of our community, but it is stated as a working tool. It is mandatory for all students. For bachelor programs, the first year, the second year of bachelor programs, they study English no matter what faculty they are, and they have the same amount of English hours in the first and in the second undergraduate programs. Also, they have a certain amount of hours, all of them at master program level. We have a standardized timetable, which means that English is planned first at our university in our timetable. Every Monday and Friday, our students in the bachelor programs, first and second year, they have English classes. After that, the timetable is built for other subjects as well. We teach English, but what is also important, it was mentioned today as part of the strategy as well at the state level, is that English should be incorporated more actively in teaching other subjects in English. This is also part of building English skills. And altogether it is recognized as an essential skill of our alumni. We have built recently a picture of the alumni skills that are essential for them, and English was stated based upon the interviews as one of the most important ones. Altogether, we can say that it contributes to having a foreign language, the English in our case, as the special status. Talking about the Department of English Language Department I represent together with our colleagues here. English as a foreign language is taught through some important factors. And I would like to outline several of them. First of all, from the very beginning of our program's implementation, we have English-speaking environment. That is, it is a strict requirement that in our classes, with our students, no matter what level they have, they communicate only in English. We have been using communicative approach since the opening of our department. Today, of course, this is already an accepted way when language is seen as kind of communication. But when we started our programs, and today I'm happy that we have our colleagues, Lesa Senina Batulska, Irina Vadimina Simenko, Natalia Kulichenko, Tatiana Kuzava, who contributed to building the syllabi of our programs in cooperation with international experts as well. We have integrated curricula and assessment. What I mean here is that we have clear links between the levels, and we have a clear system of assessment. Just a few words about it. In addition to current tests, I think everyone has at your university, we have a system of final tests at the end of each term, which means that all the students take the same test, and they are evaluated according to the same criteria. That provides the same assessment criteria for all the students in our university. We do not differentiate their levels in their diploma later. We do provide, we are trying to provide possible ways for ongoing professional development, and we are happy to have a support environment in our university. We have Center for Professional Development, Olga Byshatska also represents that, and we have all possibilities that can, we use those possibilities that can help our teachers to advance. And I would mention collaborative atmosphere, which includes such qualities and of our colleagues, of our people as commitment, creativity, and friendliness in communication with each other. As I promised before, I'm giving a kind of brief case study, trying to analyze which factors contribute to high-quality teaching and learning. And I do realize that taking each of them is not unique, but as the first presenter today mentioned, it is important to implement them, to keep to them. Altogether, that provides what I would call, when thinking about the core elements to characterize the work of our department, that is openness, openness to cooperation, openness to projects, openness to initiatives, and result-based approach. We are oriented at results. Frankly speaking, as the head of the department, I don't care if our colleagues have, for example, additional employment or additional part-time work. as well as it all contributes to the quality of teaching. So I, for example, welcome translation works, I welcome the flexible timetable, because altogether this contributes to building a good atmosphere and innovative approaches in the classroom. A few words about the internationalization, why it is important. So, of course, it's not necessary today to say why English is important, why internationalization in universities is important, but generally, it's no surprise to mention that we do have academic exchange. We are now increasing the scope of subjects taught in English. From the very beginning, we have had strong partnership with the universities, and we are in permanent search for such partnership and international projects. These factors help to create the atmosphere when the English is just a natural tool for communication, both for instructors and for students. Altogether, this creates opportunities. As for resources, at our department in particular, we use only authentic materials. That is thanks to cooperation with different publishing houses, including Internal and Oxford and others. We have been using authentic material to create authentic atmosphere of language in the classroom. We are developing online platforms in addition to offline. By offline platform today I would call the computer classrooms, computerized laboratories, but also we have now centralized this EDU system for developing distance education. We are developing student support system, and in particular at our university we have English Writing Center, the first center of this type in Ukraine. We have had speaking clubs, and together with different regular events, we invite you to participate in our public speaking contest among master program students to be part of our holiday, of our celebration of that time, and English writing essay contest. Altogether this creates atmosphere promoting the learning of foreign languages. And altogether this creates possibilities for ongoing learning. So, to conclude, I would say that the factors of quality in a university, based upon our example, may be divided into 4 parts. First of all, the foreign language, English, should be given what's called special status, or solid status, strong status. It should not be like something additional, some additional useful skill. It should be clearly stated by the administration, by the leadership, because this is very important for further development at the university level. At the level of department, I will call it, as I mentioned, as being open and result-oriented and innovative. We should create opportunities to help internationalization, and finally, we should provide ongoing learning with the help of resources. Thank you for your attention, and we're always looking forward to cooperation with our institutions.
Thank you very much. Our event is mainly dedicated to the issues of quality in teaching and learning English in higher education institutions. The picture wouldn't be complete without the topic of assessment. Therefore, I'm welcome to invite onto the stage Анна Тимофієва. Анна Тимофієва очолює центр, міжнародний центр, який представляє низку Pearson Test of English. Ви зустрічали вже її сьогодні і вчора на наших стендах. Аня, я прошу тебе до слова.
Шановні колеги, доброго дня, Світлана, дякую. Надзвичайно приємно бачити таку величезну кількість викладачів англійської мови сьогодні з нами в цей дощовий суботній ранок. Власне, я знаю, що тут присутні люди, які приїхали до нас не тільки з різних частин Києва, але й з різних куточків України. Це значить, що з нами сьогодні тут дійсно наймотивованіша аудиторія. І це дуже круто. Як вже Світлана сказала, я очолюю Міжнародний екзаменаційний центр або International Language Assessment Center. який надає можливість усім бажаючим підтвердити рівень володіння іноземною мовою та, склавши, власне, міжнародні мовні іспити Пірсон, та отримати міжнародні мовні сертифікати, до речі, безстрокові, які визнаються Міністерством освіти та науки України, а також багатьма роботодавцями та університетами за кордоном. Власне, тема міжнародної сертифікації не нова для України, не нова для вищих навчальних закладів, але як люди, які дуже щільно дотичні, власне, до теми міжнародної сертифікації, хочу сказати і відмітити, що за останні декілька років ми відчули просто неймовірний сплеск, власне, запитів та цікавості саме цією темою. Як люди, власне, які мають дотик, знову ж таки, і до статистики, хочу сказати, що за останні 2 роки кількість людей, які складають міжнародні іспити, зросла вдвічі. Також ми постійно просто отримуємо запити від викладачів англійської мови на проведення різноманітних заходів. Це воркшопи, тренінги, семінари і подібні речі, які стосуються саме міжнародної сертифікації. Саме тому, власне, ми мусимо відмітити, що тема міжнародних іспитів та міжнародної сертифікації стає все більш популярною, актуальною, а це значить, що ми з вами на правильному шляху. Також хочу поділитися одним таким цікавим фактом з вами, який стосується саме історії роботи наших іспитів в Україні. 10 років тому, коли ці іспити лише з'явилися в Україні, саме приїхали сюди, основними аплікантами були молоді дівчата, які подавали заявки на рівень A2, які звертались до того в шлюбні агентства і хотіли виїхати за кордон, щоб там, власне, пов'язати своє життя з іноземцями. Ось така була наша target audience 10 років тому. Зараз, звичайно, все змінилося. Я думаю, що ви це всі розумієте, і заявки на складання міжнародних іспитів подають зараз абсолютно різні категорії людей. В першу чергу це ваші колеги. Це викладачі вищих навчальних закладів, закладів вищої освіти, які планують отримати вчене звання. По-друге, це школярі. В основному це учні 9 та 11 класів, тому що, можливо, серед вас є люди, які знають, що кожного року виходить документ Міністерства освіти та науки України, в якому говориться про те, що випускникам загальноосвітніх шкіл, 9-класникам та 11-класникам, які отримали міжнародний іспит Pearson Test of English та, власне, сертифікат, результати державної підсумкової атестації можуть зараховуватись автоматично, а в додаток до атестату або свідоцтва може бути виставлена оцінка 12 балів. Це дуже всіх цікавить, тому, власне, якщо у вас є учні або студенти, або, власне, ваші діти, які хочуть скласти міжнародні іспити, вони мають можливість отримати державну підсумкову атестацію автоматично. Третьою категорією людей, які найчастіше звертаються до нас на складання міжнародних іспитів, звичайно, є студенти. Студенти, які хочуть поїхати навчатися за кордон. Надзвичайно визнаним наші іспити є в Польщі. Ось сьогодні, як вже казала Світлана, з нами присутня Агнєшка Дубель-Шиманська, яка представляє офіс Pearson. І саме там, завдяки роботі цієї команди в Польщі, власне, визнання даного сертифікату і наших іспитів стало надзвичайно популярним. Четвертою категорією людей, власне, зараз вона, скажімо так, навіть найбільша, яка звертається до нас на складання міжнародних іспитів, є люди, які вже пов'язали своє життя з англійською мовою або планують це зробити, я маю на увазі робоче життя, і мають дуже активні та серйозні амбіції щодо свого кар'єрного зростання. Тому що, як ви, мабуть, знаєте, більшість серйозних, активних та таких, знаєте, прогресивних міжнародних компаній, приймаючи до себе на роботу нових працівників, дійсно вимагають наявність міжнародних сертифікатів. Користуючись нагодою, хочу трішечки, скажімо так, погизуватися нашими надбаннями за останні декілька років. Протягом останніх 2 років ми дуже активно шукали партнерів серед приватних мовних шкіл та серед, власне, закладів вищої освіти, з тим, щоб на їх базі відкрити офіційні акредитовані центри тестування, в яких можна буде приймати міжнародні іспити Pearson. Зараз у нас таких центрів 25. Це дало можливість всім кандидатам, які хочуть скласти міжнародні іспити, не подорожувати кудись далеко до Києва, Харкова або Львова, а скласти міжнародний іспит в себе, вдома фактично. Зараз ми маємо міжнародні центри тестування, офіційні центри тестування фактично в кожному обласному місті. Єдине, що ми зараз шукаємо партнерів в декількох містах, скажімо так. Ми відкриємо зараз ще 1 або 2 центри тестування, і на цьому наша така робота в цьому напрямку буде вже фактично завершена. Хочу також відмітити, що ми дуже пишаємося такою співпрацею з нашими центрами тестування. Я знаю, що представники 10 центрів тестування сьогодні з нами. Ми вже стали такою, знаєте, або маленькою ком'юніті, або вже такою великою родиною. Дуже приємно завжди всіх тут вас бачити на наших заходах. Власне, як я сказала, ми вже закінчуємо відкриття центрів тестування, і цього року ми відкрили інший напрямок роботи. Ми зараз відкриваємо і шукаємо партнерів як центри підготовки до міжнародних іспитів Пірсон. Саме тому сьогодні я звертаюся до всіх присутніх в залі. Якщо ви є практикуючими викладачами англійської мови, а тут, я думаю, всі такі, якщо ви представляєте амбітні, прогресивні, вищі навчальні заклади, якщо у вас є зацікавленість в темі міжнародної сертифікації та ви готові готувати своїх студентів або учнів до складання міжнародних іспитів, власне, ви маєте всі шанси стати центром підготовки до міжнародних іспитів. І ми дуже відкриті до співпраці. Зараз на екрані ви бачите мої контакти. Якщо вас дійсно цікавить ця тема, ви можете зв'язатися зі мною будь-яким зручним вам способом та дізнатись деталі нашої співпраці. Протягом всієї програми сьогоднішнього форуму у нас діє інформаційний стенд. Він знаходиться буквально при вході в даний зал. Я або мої колеги з радістю поконсультуємо вас щодо умов співпраці в якості Центру підготовки до міжнародних іспитів. У мене, власне, все. Я вам дуже дякую за увагу і бажаю сьогодні дуже активного та продуктивного дня разом з нами.
Anna, thank you a lot. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to invite onto the stage our key speaker and key guest for today's event. This is Rob Dean. Rob, you're welcome. How are you bringing Rob onto the stage? Юля, ти поможеш мені з презентацією?
Okay, good afternoon. How are you feeling today? Fantastic. I'm very pleased to hear it. So am I. Are you enjoying the conference? It's amazing, isn't it? I've had a fantastic time and it's been a great privilege to be involved with this remarkable event. I'll tell you what's fantastic too. The room is nearly full. I don't know how many people are here, probably 200-300 people, I'm not sure. It's Saturday morning. The schools are closed. The shops are open. The sky is blue and the sun is shining. No, it isn't. But nevertheless, you're all here, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. So I'll do my best to reward your efforts in the next hour or so with something that I hope you'll find useful, practical, thought-provoking, worthwhile. And again, following on from yesterday, I hope we also have some fun with this as well. Because, as I said, I do believe that fun is an important part of the mix. So, I'd like to begin this session by showing you some pictures. Four pictures that all have a connection. I'm sure you'll be able to work out very easily what the connection is. The first picture, we have a shop assistant. The second picture, we have a waiter. In the third one, we have a car cleaner. And in the fourth one, we have a market research interviewer. Now then, the connection obviously is that they are all professions or jobs. But for reasons of my own, one of these is the odd one out. So here's your first task. Which one do you think is the odd one out? Any ideas? Do you know, it's interesting, I've used this before and everybody always shouts, car cleaner! And you know what? You're absolutely right. Now, I won't ask you the reasons for your choice. Very often people say, well, the car cleaner is not dealing directly with people, unlike the other three. The reason actually is that in my working career, I have worked as a shop assistant, I have worked as a waiter, I have worked as a market research interviewer, but I have never ever worked as a car cleaner. You know, as students, and I'm sure it's the same in every country around the world, as students we have to supplement our income. And when I was a student, I took various lowly paid jobs working in these particular environments. But as I say, if you saw my car today, you would realise that I've never really shown much interest in cleaning cars, professionally or otherwise. Now, back in 1986, I graduated from university, so you can probably work out my age now. Yeah, all the phones are out now, calculator mode, yeah, I know. All right, I'm not going to tell you, you can guess. But back in 1986, I had one of those light bulb moments, and I decided I knew what I wanted to do as a career. And it was none of these things, I'm sure you'd be surprised to know. What was it, though, I wonder? What was it that I decided I wanted to do? Well, I can tell you straight away, it had nothing much to do with teaching English. In fact, nothing at all to do with teaching English. What we're going to do now is a little activity. I've never done this before with such an enormous group of people, but we're going to play 20 questions. The way this works is, you can ask me up to 20 questions to try and guess what my dream job was back in 1986. I can only answer yes or no. Now, bear in mind, if you do this activity with your students, encourage them to ask questions about the job, not just to shout out jobs one after the other. So think about the nature of the job. Would it have been to work with other people or work alone? Would it have been to work with technology? Would it have involved travelling? Would it have involved danger, for example? All right, so I'm going to come down among you. As soon as you have a question, wave your hand in the air. And by the way, you have a challenge. I did this 2 weeks ago in Berlin, and the Berlin teachers got this in 9 questions. So that's your target, all right? Can Kiev beat Berlin? Yes! Okay, come on, let's have some hands in the air. Hands in the air. Come on, don't be shy. Okay, first question.
What's your dream to become a pilot?
Was my dream to become a pilot? Yes, it was! How on earth did you get that? Well, my activity went a bit short, didn't it? I was ready to run around the room and visit you all with your questions. Yes! That's amazing. That's never ever happened before. So, yeah, Kiev definitely wins. There's no doubt about it. You're incredible. Yeah, the truth is, so yeah, we would have had lots of other questions normally, but well done, brilliant. Do I look like a pilot? Is that the clue? Yeah, I wanted to be a pilot, but there was a big problem. I researched the whole area, I looked into applying to British Airways to join their graduates training scheme, but immediately I realised I couldn't do this. Do you know why? Eyesight, yes. I wear glasses, as you can tell, and without my glasses I'm nearly blind. Now, pilots can wear glasses, but not ones with such strong lenses as my own. So yes, I had to think again, I had to go into a different direction, and I ended up many years later getting involved in English language teaching, and I've never looked back. Now, lots has happened, obviously, since 1986, all those years ago, both in my own personal life, in my professional life, in all of our lives, and in the world around us. This conference has been talking about reform. This conference has been talking about change. And to follow on, to some degree, to some of the things that Sean mentioned in his talk at the beginning, some changes since 1986 relating to certain areas of those jobs that I did as a student. So for a start, shopkeepers beware. It's a reality now that online retail sales have grown in the UK to account for nearly 16% of the total. Do you ever shop online? Of course you do, we all do, don't we? We all do. Have you ever shopped online for your supermarket, your grocery shopping? I have, and it's very dangerous because sometimes if they don't have what you've ordered, they send something different. I'd ordered some coffee in my last order and they didn't have the brand that I wanted, so they sent me toilet cleaner instead. I don't know what they thought I enjoyed drinking toilet cleaner, or I don't know, very strange. Anyway, moving on, with relation to market research, I'm sure we're all familiar with this. We are all part of this on a daily basis almost. What used to be done in the street by people with clipboards interviewing passers-by is largely done online. You only have to buy something now, and then 2 days later, we want your feedback, please. If you stay in a hotel, within seconds of checking out, Booking.com send you an email to ask for your feedback. What else? The car business has undergone massive change, enormous change. My students often say things to me like, oh, I do love these British cars. Rolls Royces, Jaguars, Land Rovers, Range Rovers. They're not British. They're really not. Rolls Royce is owned by BMW, it's German. Who would have thought that? Bentley is owned by Volkswagen. Land Rover and Jaguar owned by Tata of India. There are virtually no British cars left. Fascinating. And finally, and rather bizarrely, I read just recently that if you have 3D printing technology at home, you won't need a waiter ever again, because you can print your own pizza in the comfort of your own kitchen. Sounds very messy to me, actually, I have to say. But there you go. So change is happening all the time, but I think when we're confronted with change, one of the things that helps us a little, I think it helps us to rationalise things and to stay calm, is to think about what isn't changing. There's lots of things don't change, and looking at what's not changing, I think as we move forward, I think it's likely that English is going to continue as the world's #1 language. Would you agree? I think that's why we're all here, isn't it? People say Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese. Probably in terms of sheer numbers of first language users, yeah, but not between language users. It's a fact that there are over 2 billion speakers of English around the world. But let's bear in mind that less than 400 million are first language users, sometimes referred to as native speakers. So what's that telling us? 1.6 billion people speak English to other people whose second language or third language is also English. As I said yesterday, this is why it's so important to be exposing our students to different kinds of English, not just the traditional native speaker type models. It's also worth bearing in mind that people will still need to communicate for business. They'll still need to communicate for pleasure, irrespective of all the changes we've talked about. If we are printing our own pizzas at home in our own kitchens, it doesn't mean we stop communicating. Let's face it, the machine will probably break down at some stage and you'll have to phone somebody up and speak to them to get it fixed. Communication. Most communication in business, incidentally, is between second language users, further to what I said a moment ago. I worked a while ago with Volvo, the truck and bus manufacturers. They have a big factory in Wrocław in Poland, where I live. And when I first met the Human Resources Director to talk about English classes that we were providing for them, I said, would you prefer British English, American English, what do you want? He said, I want Swedish English. And I know what he meant. What he was saying was, essentially, he wasn't bothered about the traditional native speaker models. He wanted international lingua franca English. And of course, people are going to communicate across cultures. We sometimes overlook this. We sometimes think about culture as being nothing more than red buses and 5 o'clock tea and other such stereotypical and largely irrelevant things. Where it really counts, for example, I went to Oman 2 or 3 years ago. Anybody here been to Oman? In the Middle East? If you get the chance, it's an amazing place, but what a horrible mistake I made when I arrived. I got to the airport, passport control, there was a very nice lady in the glass kiosk stamping the passports, and next to her she had this plate of food, and it looked absolutely delicious. And I said to her, "Wow, that looks good." And she said, "Here, you must have it." I said, No, I don't want to take your dinner." She said, "You must have it. If you like it, you have it." And I thought, oh no, I know what I've done. I know what I've done. In certain Middle Eastern culture, you may know this. If you admire something, it means you want it. And if the listener refuses to give you what you've admired, it's considered highly inappropriate and rude. So you can see the situation I was in. It was awful. I tell you what though, next time I go to the Middle East, I'm going to admire some Rolls Royces and Jaguars. I'm joking. Alright, so what we're saying, we're going to have to prepare our current day learners for a successful future. Certain things are changing, certain things are staying the same, but whatever, as I said yesterday, their future is going to be rather different from our past. So, how are we going to do that? How are we going to do it? Well, we need to include the right ingredients. On the screen there, you can see a number of skills related to what we deal with in the classroom. How about we divide these up? They're a bit random at the moment, aren't they? We need to put them into some sort of logical order. Just for a second, have a look at them. How would you divide those into two categories? Okay, have you managed to divide them? You have? Okay, let's see if your categories are the same as mine. Here we go. Did you have the same? Yeah, pretty much. What we've done here, we've divided them up into what I'm calling today hard skills. I don't mean hard in the sense of difficult. I mean hard in the sense of measurable, testable, teachable, interview securing skills. The sort of things where we can say, look, here is a certificate to say I've got C4 level English. No, there's no such thing as that. C2 level English, yeah? So these are the sort of things, as I say, that we spend a lot of time on with our students. The other ones I'm calling, for the purposes of today, soft skills. Soft skills, we're talking more about emotional intelligence. We're talking about things that are more difficult to measure. These are the sort of things that are less teachable, but they can be developed. And we can lie about them in interviews. Who's to say that I'm not good at intercultural communication? There is no such thing as a certificate to say I've got level 7B in intercultural communication. That doesn't exist. So what we're doing in this session essentially is combining the two, putting the two together. Why soft skills? Why are we including soft skills with language teaching? Well, they obviously link because we use language to achieve the kind of results we're looking at on the left-hand side. But also, a bit of research here from a supplement of the Times newspaper shows that 57% of business leaders say soft skills are more important than hard skills. Fascinating little bit of statistic there. It also says the #1 priority for talent development in training for soft skills is to soften the impact of automation. So we talked earlier on about all this computerization and globalization. The soft skills are really important. It seems to almost go against what we said at the beginning. So in what time is left today, I'd like to look at elements of ways of incorporating these through approaches, through activities. I'd like to share with you some new materials. I think you might find this material rather interesting, a new course from Pearson. And we'll be looking at putting the two together. You remember yesterday we talked about the centrepiece of everything we do in class as being communication. Communication for entertainment. We do all sorts of things with regard to entertainment, don't we? Yeah? We listen to the radio, we tell anecdotes, we tell stories, we tell jokes. Do you know any good jokes? Do you want to hear a bad joke? Do you? I've got a really bad joke. It's not rude, it's just bad, all right? Okay, why did the lobster refuse to share his toys with his brothers and sisters? Because he was shellfish. Boom, boom. That was bad, wasn't it? Let's move on quickly. We talked about sharing information, sharing opinions, solving problems. We talked about survival. We talked about developing and maintaining relationships. All of these things are what we're doing with communication as the centerpiece of our learning, of our teaching. So if we look at this as the ultimate outcome, what I've always loved doing as a teacher is planning backwards. I used to teach on CELTA courses, and I used to try and get my CELTA trainees to think about this concept of planning backwards. In other words, start with the goal. What do we want to achieve? And then think about how we get there. Well, we don't need to do that quite as much nowadays when we're using modern day materials. If we look at this, I've taken this from a brand new Pearson course. It's called Roadmap. This does it for us, really. What's the goal? We're going to describe a job. What's the grammar? There it is. What's the vocab? And, just to make sure that we achieve what we're aiming to do, at the very end of the lesson, there's an activity where the students have the chance to show that they have managed to do what they set out to do. And in fact, what we've got at the end there is an activity which comprises a descriptor on the global scale of English. Are you familiar with the global scale of English? You are, of course you are. That's fantastic to hear. I go to many countries and people just stare at me as though I'm talking about witchcraft. But the global scale of English, a centerpiece of this. Can-do statements. I am able to achieve a result. All right, so if we're going to do this, let's go into a little bit of language. Okay, let's go into a bit of language. Let's not forget the soft skills, though. How can soft skills and the study of language go together? Well, it's probably easy to think about soft skills development and communicative activities. But what about when we're studying grammar? Can we incorporate soft skills with that? Let's have a look, shall we? Now, going back some years, many, many, many years in fact, the idea of soft skills and grammar just did not go together at all. You would have a teacher who probably looked a bit like this. Very friendly, smiling, happy, no, angry. Everybody listen, be quiet. Right, I'm going to read something to you. Clauses beginning with question words, for example, who, which, where, are often used to identify people and things. Are you listening? Don't write this down, be quiet. And it would go on like this. I remember this only too well in my French and German classes. And then at the end, the teacher would ask the killer question. What's the killer question? Do you understand? Do you understand? The least useful question you can ever ask in an English language classroom. Why? Because everybody will either say yes, or they will say nothing. It doesn't tell you anything useful. Nobody in their right mind will put their hands up and say, excuse me teacher, I don't understand. Because they will feel stupid. They'll feel like an idiot in front of their friends. So we need another way. And there is another way. So, are we ready? Bye-bye. You are the weakest link. What is that other way? Well, the 21st century way, of course. And the 21st century way, as we will see, is more involving and involving also of hard and soft skills together. We need context first. There was no context in that, was there? It was just a list of rules. It was random. It was abstract. Context. So context here, don't try reading this, you'll get a headache. It's provided in the form of an audio and a text where the students actually get to learn something. They learn something about what's going on in terms of a topic. Here we've got people talking about different jobs. And within there we find embedded various language structures. In this case, relative pronouns, relative clauses. We then get the students to do some of the work. We involve them in diving into this text and analysing it. But of course, they need a bit of support, don't they? And the support comes from structured activities such as this, based upon an inductive approach with which we're all 100% familiar, I'm absolutely sure. But what is an inductive approach? It's one in which we base the principle of tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. So the involvement here is about the students going through the activities on the page, going to the text, analysing, thinking, soft skill. They're using critical thinking to come to the rules. Okay, what do we do next? Well, we need to practice, don't we? You've heard the old saying that practice makes perfect. Some people subscribe to the idea that you shouldn't practice until you get it right. You should practice till you can't get it wrong. But I do like the idea of students getting things wrong because it's a great way of measuring progress. If we make a mistake, do it again, get it right, we see we've improved. So let's have a little look at a few typical activities that come with practice. Common things you find in course books, and exams come to that. We've got things like sentence completion, ordering, transformations, forming opposites or negatives, gap filling, all very common. And common in exams as well. Do you know why these are common in exams? It's because they can be marked by machine. Yeah, the binary answers, so they can be automatically marked. So stuff like this. This is an activity that doesn't come from any book in particular. It's an activity in which we're going to practice here, make and do, by filling in the gaps. Okay, so question one. How much money does a waitress, and what's the answer? Yeah, how much money does a waitress make? But what's the answer to the question? Oh, let's not worry about it. Is it important? I don't care. No, let's move on. Okay, next one. Could you something the washing today? What goes in the gap? Okay, and what's the answer? That's a strange question to actually ask a group of teachers at a conference, isn't it? Can you do the washing today? That's very weird. Okay, let's forget that and move on. Okay, did Tom's new business... Okay, and what's the answer? Did it make a profit? We have a problem with this, haven't we? Because essentially, Tom doesn't exist. Therefore, his business doesn't exist. So how can a business that doesn't exist make a profit? So that is really bizarre, isn't it? And it continues. Has Dick done the washing up? Who's Dick? He's not real, so how can you do the washing up? Were you doing your homework? You don't do homework, you're teachers. You do lesson preparation and marking. So what a stupid question to ask you. And I didn't call you anyway. Harry doesn't exist, so how can you make a complaint? This is typical of the old days. Meaningless stuff based on people that don't exist. No wonder our students would find it tedious and boring. It's this kind of stuff that used to give grammar a bad name. There's another way that's involving of the soft skills, of creativity, of personalisation, and of interactivity. If we look at this, you'll notice it includes a word that is very, very key to success in language practice. It says you're going to describe a job for other students to guess. First, think of a job that you want to describe. You, that little three-letter word. Putting the students at the centre of it makes it all the more memorable, involving, and motivating, and fun. And in fact, do you remember we had 20 questions at the beginning? Actually, it was one question. I based it on that. This idea of interactivity, of creativity, of fun, but also of memorable language practice. Meaningful practice. Now, I have a question for you at this stage. Do you use games in the classroom with your students? Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. It's very common that I meet people from universities who say, no, we don't play games with our students. We do serious things. Well, games have a serious purpose. Games are, for a start, a great way of providing natural repetition of language. If it's a guessing game, we use the same words over and over again without realising it. If it's a game involving meta-language, for example, dice and cards, you can say, pass the dice, it's my turn, you're cheating, I'm winning. We repeat that over again without realising it. It internalises the language. We talked yesterday about 21st century skills. Soft skills, critical thinking skills, a great way of practising these, because everybody wants to win at a game, don't they? So how do they do it? They've got to think about it. Games can be fun and motivating because they connect with what we do for pleasure in our own time at home. And of course, the right kind of game can contribute to the linguistic aims of our lessons. I've another activity for you now. This is not exactly a game. Well, I'll let you decide if it's a game or not. There are here 5 sentences about somebody in this room. My first question for you is, who do you think these sentences refer to? Oh, very good, yes. How did you guess? They are me, yes. However, one of them is a lie. One of them is not true. I'll give you a moment with the person next to you to try and guess which one do you think is a lie. Now, I know we've only just met each other, so you will have to guess. Just a moment with the person next to you. Okay, do you think you've spotted the lie? Okay, let's find out. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do this by voting. So one show of hands for each one. We'll go through them in order. So if you think number 1 is a lie, could you raise your hand? If you think number 1 is a lie. Okay, no, oh, we've got one hand for that one. One hand, okay, brilliant. If you think number 2 is a lie, could you raise your hand? Okay, brilliant. Number 3. Well, that's a popular one, isn't it? Number 4. And number 5. Well, it seems to be the most popular. Okay. I've obviously made this very difficult, haven't I? Doing this with your students, by the way, this is the moment in the lesson where you have 100% attention, because they want to know if they're right or not. So prediction activities work really well in my experience. If they're going to listen or read afterwards, it means they're motivated to find out if their predictions are true or not. I'm going to go through them in reverse order. Are you ready? So number 5 is true. You might be surprised about this. I actually have a picture of it. Would you like to see it? Okay, there it is. I didn't tell you how big it was, did I? Not that big. All right, number 4 is true. Many years ago, when I first lived in Poland, I had an English language radio show, which was great fun, playing music, having competitions and all sorts of things like that. Didn't last long, unfortunately. Number 3 is true. In the days when, or in the days before all this security stopped people from visiting the cockpit, I was with my sister years ago. We were travelling on holiday, and they allowed us to go into the cockpit and see the pilots and see the view out of the front window. It was amazing, but sadly I don't think we can do that anymore. Number 2 is true. Be very, very careful. If you go to a foreign country that you're not familiar with and they say to you, would you like to try our local speciality? Ask first what it is. I didn't, and when the animal arrived sitting on the plate with its arms and legs and its eyes and nose looking at me, well, I couldn't eat it. Which means number 1 is a total lie. Absolute rubbish. I have not visited 68 countries. I have only visited 67, correct. Thank you. So, an activity there, it embodies this idea of soft skills. We're sharing real information, probably reacting to it as well. Get our students to create these for themselves. They write their 5 sentences, then they listen. They have to try and apply critical thinking to determine which is the false sentence, which is the lie. You can use this to practice any grammar, any language whatsoever. We've got present perfect on here. So we've moved quite seamlessly, I think, from grammar to real communication. Real communication whilst practicing grammar. Those are real facts. Well, one of them's a lie, obviously. Which I think leads us very nicely into the next area I'd like to talk about. This area of soft skills and communication. Now, think about this. I don't know if some of you were watching the video that was playing before this morning's session started. There was a chap on the screen there, an American guy, talking about things we commonly say in English and things we might not say. Now, if you were to meet somebody in the street, and I'm talking here in a British context, because I'm British, okay, we might walk up to our friend in the street and say, "Hey, how's things?" Well, straight away you might realise that that's grammatically wrong, isn't it? But we are inherently lazy people, and instead of saying "how are things," which means one extra syllable, we'll say "how's things?" What's the answer? Always. Yeah, it's something like this, isn't it? Something like this. "Fine, thanks. I'm good. I'm okay. Even if we're dying, this is still the answer." All right? Okay, let's have another one. Another one. This also featured in the video, if some of you saw it earlier on. We often mention the weather in our communication, and again we might say, "How's things?" and then we might move on to say, "Nice weather." The listener, would they agree or disagree? They always agree, yeah. They'd say something like, "Yeah, very nice. It's going to be nice tomorrow as well. It was quite good yesterday. It's going to rain next week." Now, the words on the screen make these appear to mean very different things, but they actually both mean exactly the same thing. And before we move on and talk about what they actually mean, let me share with you a third one. This is from the culture of Malaysia, Malaysian English. I was there, I lived there for 2 years actually, and I'd only been there a short time, and I got into the elevator in the apartment block where I lived, and a total stranger got into the into the elevator next to me, and he turned to me and he said, "Have you had your lunch?" I didn't know what to say. I thought, is this guy inviting me out for dinner or something? What's going on? So I hesitated for quite a long time, and then finally I said to him, "No, I haven't, no." He just said to me, "I've eaten already." Now, I don't know if any of you have been to Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. Very, very common exchange. You hear this all the time. These things all mean the same thing, basically. They all mean exactly the same thing. They all mean, "Do you want to talk to me?" We're not really interested in the weather. It's just a convenient way of establishing a connection before we move on and start to talk about more important things. We're not really necessarily interested in the other person's health. I know that sounds awful, but we use "how's things" much more as a means of establishing a connection before we discuss more important things. So these are all examples of icebreakers, examples of functional language. And this is the crunch. To me, this is where soft skills and language meet. Functional language is key to effective use of soft skills. So we're talking essentially pragmatic, saying the right thing to the right person at the right time in the right way. And functions to me are a fascinating area of language. It's language to get things done. These are just a few examples. And what is fascinating about these to me is that there are so many ways of achieving these results within each category. So if we think about apologising, we might say, well, how can we apologise? Give me some examples. "I'm sorry." "I apologise," yeah. "I'm really sorry." "Oh, forgive me." There are so many different ways of doing it, so many different ways. And this is what's interesting to me. This is what's very interesting. There are good things about teaching functions in terms of the reception from our students. Students will often enjoy it. You see, it gives them bits of real English. For example, if you go to a friend or somebody in the street and you're about 18 years old, and maybe in the USA, you might say, "Hey, what's up?" And what's the response? What's up? It's the same, yeah. It's a bit like a modern day version of how do you do, yeah. And kids like this. Young people love this. They find it fascinating, and it's grammatically inaccurate. But what does that matter? It's real. I always say that functions are about focusing on real communicative outcomes. It's what you do with language. Grammar is what you know. Functions is what you do. But bad things. Old course books don't always reflect what people say. Old course books, some of them are rather wonderful, but they contain old-fashioned methodology, they contain old-fashioned language. Here's an example. I don't know if any of you have seen this one before. Published in the 1960s by Penguin, which was an imprint of Longman at one time, which in turn was Pearson. Conversation exercises in everyday English, book 2. And one of the questions on the cover says, what would you do if you found a goat in your room? Remember, this is everyday English. And the guy's response, how extraordinary. Lovely, isn't it? So 1960s. This is not what we say. And as culture changes, so does language. In fact, let's have a quick quiz. Do you like quizzes? This is easy. You've got 50-50 chance of getting it right, okay? So, English as it's really used. Which one are we more likely to say nowadays? We are indeed, yes, yes. What about these? When we're saying goodbye to somebody? Yes. Cheerio at one time was goodbye, but that's very 1960s. We tend to say cheers, the same as when we're having a drink, if we're saying goodbye. Interesting. Yeah, the cats and dogs have gone. Very sad, isn't it? I used to love that expression, but you very rarely hear it. What a pain. Yeah, the one's on the left, isn't it? Yeah. How do you do? I used to love how do you do, because it's a bit like, what's up? It's easy. How do you do? How do you do? Question, answer, it's the same. On the left, yes, social media, electronic communication has brought about language such as this. And finally, and very importantly, yes, you cannot get a coffee nowadays if you don't speak Italian. Have you noticed this? It's true. I was at Heathrow Airport in London a few years ago now. I was tired and I needed coffee. So I went to the coffee kiosk, one of these modern, trendy ones, and I said to the woman, a coffee with milk, please. She says, I don't think we've got that. She said, do you mean cappuccino? I said, no, I want coffee with milk. She said, oh, you mean latte? I said, no, I don't want latte. I said, I want coffee with milk. She said, oh, you mean frappuccino? I said, no, I don't want anything with a stupid Italian name. I want coffee with milk. She said, I'll go and ask the manager. So she went to ask the manager and came back and said, you want Americano. I learned a new word. So, some of these I realise are functional expressions, some of them are vocabulary, but whatever, English is changing. And at one time it was hard to find course books that contained this up-to-date use of language. That is changing, thank goodness. I mean, when we come to expressions like showing interest, how extraordinary. What are we more likely to say nowadays? Wow! Awesome! Yeah, and here we are, straight from a course book. 25 years ago, you wouldn't have found this in a course book. These feature in the course roadmap. And of course, if we want our students to use these, we can't just give them a list. We talked about the shortcomings of lists yesterday. If we look at a list, we're likely to forget it. We need to engage with it. We need to actually think about it and do things with it. So activating this functional language, in this case to show interest, we start with recognition. Okay, so, whoops, sorry. Back again. Come on, thank you. Okay, tick the phrases in the order you hear them. That's the beginning. We move on to look at pronunciation. Very important. It can make all the difference, can't it? If you think about the word interesting, for example. The word interesting. It's one of my favourite words in English because it can mean two very different things. Okay. After one of these workshops, sometimes people come to me and they'll say, your workshop was very interesting. And I think, Do they like it or not? I'm not sure. As opposed to, your workshop was very interesting. Yeah? Harassing intonation. I know they mean it then. So it's all in the way we say it. And when we talk soft skills, if we're showing interest or empathy or sympathy, if we don't say it in the right way, it can have exactly the opposite meaning. So distinguishing is a key thing to do before moving on to practice it in a controlled way. Giving students the opportunity here to put expressions in the gaps in the dialogue. Before moving on here to actually give the students a chance to use it. We can also give students a little demo, and I'm a big fan of this. I think it provides the students with the opportunity to listen to somebody really speaking. It also gives the students a chance to practice the language in a very realistic sense. So I'm going to do that with you. It's going to be rather a tricky one in a way, because again, we've got so many people. But I'm going to come down a bit closer to you. I want to tell you a little story. It's a true one. It happened earlier this year on a business trip, a Pearson trip to Egypt, when everything went wrong. Much, much worse than stealing poor lady's dinner in Oman. Much worse than that. It's a true story. So as I tell the story, okay, nice and loud, when I pause, I'd like you to respond to what you've heard so far. All right, are you ready to do that? Should we try it? Okay then. Right, back in May, I went to Egypt. I flew with Lufthansa from Wrocław, where I live in Poland, to Frankfurt. Why? Good question. Well, I had to catch another plane in Frankfurt, but there was a massive, massive problem. Do you know what it was? My flight to Frankfurt was delayed by nearly 2 hours. Oh yes, oh yes. So I arrived in Frankfurt very stressed. I had to go to the desk and get a different flight, which meant that I arrived very late, well, much later than I intended, in Cairo, in Egypt. Oh, you're good at this. I love it. Yeah, you're giving me real sympathy here. I love it. Okay, yeah. Anyway, things got progressively worse because I got to the baggage carousel to take my suitcase, and it wasn't there. My suitcase wasn't there. So, Cairo Airport, I don't know if anybody's ever been there, is not the most organised place on earth. It's not as nice as the one you have here in Kiev, for example. It really is quite old-fashioned. I went to the desk and I couldn't find anybody who spoke English. Eventually, though, I got a piece of paper to say that if I was lucky, I might see my luggage again one day. The story goes on. I got to the hotel, checked in, met the Pearson guys, and we went for dinner. What happened next, you might well ask. Got sat down at the dinner table, ordered a meal, ordered a beer. The waitress brought the beer, and what did she do with the beer? She spilt it all down my front. Yeah, shirt, trousers, shoes, socks, everything, soaked in Egyptian beer. So think about the situation. I was there in a restaurant, soaking wet with beer. I had no luggage, so no clothes to change into. The best bit though was when the manager came to us and he said, "Don't worry, I will have your clothes cleaned for you." My reaction then was, do you want me to take my clothes off here and now and sit naked in your restaurant while you wash the beer out of my shirt and trousers, or what? Anyway, there was a happy ending the next morning. My luggage arrived. So I was able to go to the conference not smelling of Egyptian beer. So an example then of real communication. A demo from the teacher for the students to then go on, prepare their own little talks and share them with one another. Of course, when we've done all this, we want to think about how well we've achieved it. We've seen, no doubt, this little cartoon before at some stage. Yeah, I taught Stripe how to whistle. I don't hear him whistling. I said I taught him. I didn't say he learned it. So what are we saying? There is often a disjoint between what we teach and what our students actually retain, what they learn essentially. Important here, with course material, to give the students the opportunity to reflect upon where they are. And what we've got here, provided in the pages of Roadmap, is a structured way in which the students are encouraged to reflect based upon the initial outset, those initial goals. So, how have you done? I can describe a job, I can describe people, I can give advice. So we link our goals with our achievements. All right, I'd like to finish soon-ish. Okay, but first I want to talk a little bit about materials. I said I'd share with you a little bit of information about the new material. The course I've been referring to is called Roadmap. It's new. It's aimed at adults, tertiary, university age and onwards. It comes in 8 levels. It goes from A1 all the way to C1. And one of the things about this course, as with any course that a publisher produces, is that it's the result of huge amounts of research, huge amounts of feedback from teachers. This is no exception. And some of the things that Pearson heard loud and clear are things like these. From a teacher called Mr. Atkinson, I believe in England actually, he said, but my students only have 2 hours a week. Another teacher, whose name I believe is Mr. Windsor, he's also British, he said, my students don't need writing skills. A teacher here from Germany, she's called Mrs. Merkel, and she said that she has as many hours as she wants. She would, wouldn't she? And finally, in the United States, a teacher called Miss Gaga, she commented that her students need extra reading skills. So what we're doing here, we're trying to deal with a whole load of different requirements, a whole load of different needs. What do we need? We need flexibility in all this. So what have we got? We have got just that. And what it looks like, if this thing will work, is this. There's a fast track route through the course. Okay? You know how many hours you've got, you know how much you can fit in. So if you haven't got many hours, you can fast track it. So 4 lessons per unit plus the check and reflect section. On the other hand, your students might need specific areas that are not necessarily covered in the fast track route. Things, for instance, like extra reading, extra writing, extra listening. So these are self-contained lessons that can be added according to your needs. And there are not many courses that do that. So this is a unique thing about this. But of course, books are only part of the story nowadays. I bet you wondered how long it would take me before I started talking about electronic things. Well, it's that time right now. Based upon a bit of research, this was done in Italy some years ago. Okay, young adults spending their leisure time at home, their preferences have changed hugely from perhaps what we used to do when we were young adults, or very young adults. Okay, when we were young, we perhaps enjoyed things like drawing, painting, playing musical instruments, cooking. Nowadays, the number one is what? I can hear you saying it. Using the internet, precisely, for all manner of different things. Let me say straight away, the internet is not exciting anymore. Actually, it is. It's exciting when it's not there. It's a bit like the air that we breathe. Oh no, I can't survive. The internet's down. What am I going to do? It's one of those things that younger people have never experienced life without. I have a 7-year-old nephew. He came to me and said, Rob, Uncle Rob, very polite, Uncle Rob, he said, is it true when you were little there was no internet? I said, yes, it's true. He said, really? He said, my mum said that, but I didn't believe her. So the internet is part of life. And I think this shows it very, very clearly at a young age, equally at older ages. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so where does this take us? As teachers, are we going to be out of a job? Is it bye-bye? No, it's not. It really isn't. I am absolutely convinced. Some of you who were here yesterday morning will remember Agnieszka mentioning a list of jobs and careers that will remain. I cannot remember off the top of my head if she put teacher on the list. I'm sure it was there. Good, it was. But I think what we can do is we can have the best of both worlds. We can keep all the classroom stuff that we've been talking about in this session today, but we can put it together with independent learning, with online learning, otherwise known together as blended learning. You're all familiar with this, aren't you? Yes. Yes. So what is it? Let's just remind ourselves. In the Pearson sense, blended learning consists of the stuff we use in the classroom. It could be the workbook, or alternatively, the electronic version of the workbook, known as My English Lab. How many of you are familiar with My English Lab? Brilliant, so we're going to make this interactive, all right? I'm not just going to tell you, I'm going to ask you. All right, so here's an example of an activity from My English Lab. Once the system's set up, and is it easy to do? Yes. All right. Once it's set up, the teacher can set homework for the students. They set it through the online platform. Okay, here's an example. The students have to fill in the gaps. When they've filled in the gaps to the best of their ability, they hit submit, and then what happens? Who marks the homework? The system, exactly. Because we don't like marking homework, do we? I hate marking homework, I really do. But we don't have to because the system does it for us. And here's an example of immediate feedback, a score of 71%, and you can probably make out on the screen the green bits are what the student got right, the red bits are what the student got wrong. They can have another go. They can get a hint or a tip by clicking. We don't tell them the answer, we want them to think about it. As they subsequently submit the work, they can see their score improving, increasing. Now, how do we know if they're doing their homework? What's this? It's the gradebook. This is automatically generated. The teacher has access to this, and you can see very clearly who's doing their homework, how well they're doing. We've got scores, percentages, colour coding. Brilliant. And there's one more thing too. You can find out exactly who's struggling in what sort of areas. So for every activity that the students do, you can bring up the correct answer, you can bring up examples of errors that the students made, you can find out how many students made each error, and you can find out the names of those students. Now that's good, isn't it? Because if only one student made the error, it's telling you that perhaps it's not worth spending class time with everybody to correct it. On the other hand, if 27 students all made the same error, what's that telling you? That we might need to spend a bit more time on it. Exactly, exactly. So, to summarise, My English Lab has been around a long time. As we've already seen, there's a lot of people in here who are already familiar with it. It's well established. There's a massive variety of resources on there. Skills, grammar, vocab, there's test material. The hints and tips develop critical thinking skills. They get students to think about their work. Instant feedback gives students what they want here and now. They don't have to wait for next lesson. Repetition means a student can see improvement. The automatic marking and the grade book mean less work for the teacher. And we like that, don't we? We really do. And finally, it's accessible wherever there's an internet connection, on any device. Now, I know full well that students love making excuses for not doing homework, don't they? I did my homework, but I left it on the bus. I did my homework, but the dog ate it. The dog cannot eat the internet. You cannot leave the internet on the bus. I know there will be other excuses with this, and there probably are. However, there's an easy way around this. I didn't do my homework because the internet was down. Really? And how long did you spend on Instagram and Facebook? 7 hours. Oh, really? 7 hours on Instagram? Why not 10 minutes on My English Lab then? We haven't quite finished yet. Something else I'd love to show you. This is something new, something very interesting, very convenient. This is called the Pearson English Portal. And available online, all of these resources for the teacher, some of these resources are for the students. This is where you can access stuff like the audio, testing material, teacher's notes, Photocopyables. Here's a question for you. How many photocopyables does an average course have? In total, one level of a course, say B1 level. How many photocopyables would you find normally in the teacher's resources? 16? 20? How many do you think there are with business, roadmap? I will tell you, there are a grand total of 90 photocopyable resources per level of the course. And they're coming up on here very slowly. Here we go. Come on, and another. That's it, we got it. Okay, not just that, we've more. All the audio material is available for the students on here. And one other thing that's available on here for the students, really wonderful is an app. Students love playing with their phones, don't they? Teachers love playing with the phones, don't they? Alright, okay. Well, the app is a wonderful way of putting the phone to good use. Extra grammar and vocab practice anytime and anywhere. Practice app is part of the course. Okay, more things, even more things. There's video material that accompanies the course. And of course, along with the video material, we've also got the video worksheets and video scripts. Now, I've been talking for a very long time. You've been sitting still very patiently for a very, 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 very long time. I think we need a little energizer before the break. What do you reckon? Brilliant. You may have done this activity before, but it's one of my favourites. It's a little vocab practice activity, all right? And you need a partner for this. Can you get a partner? Somebody in front of you, next to you, behind you? Yeah? Okay. Can you decide who is A and who is B? Who's A and who's B? Marvellous. Right. Okay. I'm going to say some words, and I'm going to ask you to respond. Okay. So, A, let's imagine... I'll tell you what, give me a lexical set. I know, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do sports. Let's do sports, okay? We'll do sports. Okay. A, your word is baseball. B, your word is basketball. Okay, you've got that? Right, now, can you hold up your right hand and put your right hand opposite your partner's right hand, but not touching? Yeah, have you got your hands close but not touching? Right, if I say baseball, I would like A to try and clap hands with B. B, you don't want your partner to touch your hand, so shift your hand as quickly as possible. If I say basketball, B, try to clap hands with A, what do? Drag your hand away really quickly. You don't want your partner to touch you. Shall we give it a try? Are you ready? Hands up. Not touching. Here we go. Basketball. Oh yes. Hands up. Baseball. Superb. Hands up. Baseball. Very good. Hands up. Basketball. Very good. That's stage one. Stage two. Stage two. Right. A, you're listening for 2-syllable sports. Okay. B, you're listening for 3-syllable sports. All right. Same principle. You need to really concentrate hard this time. Are you ready? Hands up. Not touching. Okay. Ready? Tennis. Very good. Hands up. Ready? Volleyball. Very good. Hands up. Ready? Football. Very good. Hands up. Ready? Hockey. Very good. Hands up. Ice hockey. You're doing really well. Okay. Should we do one last one? One last one. One last one. Okay. This time, sports that you play with a ball. That's A. B. Sports that you play without a ball. Hands up, ready? Okay, here we go. Skiing. Very good. Next one. Tennis. Good. Ready? Next one. Rugby. There's a British one for you. Next one. Swimming. That was good. Some of you are really fast. Really fast. Next one, teaching. Does that fit? I'm not so sure that it does actually. Marvellous, marvellous, marvellous. Okay, a little bit of fun, but actually it's an activity you can use for all sorts of things. We were practicing first word recognition, secondly elements of pronunciation, syllables, thirdly categories. You could use it for minimal pairs, words with I, words with E. And where does this fit in with the idea of an adult university student classroom? It's fun. And do you remember yesterday morning, one of the first things I said, and I mentioned it today, there's no reason why fun and learning should not go together. And as this morning we've sat still, we've concentrated for 2 hours, sometimes our learners need a little release, just as much as we do. So to properly finish, and it is break time, literally in 2 minutes, I have one more video for you. This video, I assume you want a funny one. Or a serious one? Yeah, you want a funny one, I know you do. Our students, of course, we said yesterday, we're not sure where they're going to end up. We know full well they're going to be doing jobs, some of which exist today, some of which don't. Some students will be pilots, some students will be teachers, some students will be managing directors, some students will work in offices. But whatever and wherever, all we've been talking about, language skills, hard skills, soft skills. It's all about providing a smoothly functioning workplace. And this video that I found, well, it appeals to my strange sense of humour. Let's see if it appeals to yours as well. This, I'm not so sure, is a very smooth functioning workplace. Enjoy. Oh dear. Oh dear. It's got me laughing anyway. There we go. By the way, I've used that with students. You could pause it, get them to guess what's going to happen next. Anyway, I can tell you what's happening next. It's break time. So thank you all very, very much for being here. Thanks for your involvement. And I wish you all the best and happy teaching. Thanks very much.
Alright, yeah, that's a break time. Just a very short announcement. Thanks again, Robert. It was fantastic. We hope to see you here in Kyiv or in Ukraine, any other place, many, many times in the future. Thanks a lot. Шановні колеги, о 14-й годині ми продовжимо з секційними засіданнями, воркшопами і зустрічами. Кафетерія університет відкрив спеціально для учасників форуму. Наші волонтери, помічники, студенти допоможуть вам знайти на першому поверсі кафетерії попити кави. О 15-й годині після закінчення воркшопів ми будемо раді зустрітися в холі з вами, поспілкуватися. Не забувайте про хештег-конкурс. 18 листопада ми отримаємо переможців. Фотографії, які наші професійні фотографи